How we doing, everybody? Woo! We are almost there. We're almost there. AP exam. Oh, man. Last day, you are going to do great. I can see people in the chat locked in. We're ready. We're not going to get cooked. We're going to take this exam down. So it's exciting. All year, you've been studying and working and prepping, and we're finally here at the end. So today we're going to be talking about Unit 9 of this wonderful class. But before we do, I want to just go over a couple tips for the multiple choice section, and also just kind of a quick reminder of the exam coming up tomorrow. So real quick, remember, when we're looking at the exam, we're talking here about 100 multiple choice questions. So that multiple choice question tomorrow, 100 of them. And that part of the test, excuse me, that part of the test, remember, is about 66.7% of your exam score. And you got 70 minutes to take the multiple choice. The FRQ, you're going to have to remember those two FRQs. And then for the two FRQs, you're going to have 50 minutes, and that's 33.3%. So the multiple choice is going to be the majority of your score tomorrow. And so that's going to be kind of important to kind of remember in the back of your head. The other thing, 100 questions is a lot. Don't panic. You're going to do great, and it will be okay. A big thing to remember, though, when you're doing these multiple choice questions, if, let's say, you get to a question and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on, don't spend too much time on it. If you truly have no idea, see if you can use some process of elimination. See if there's any context clues. Eliminate that down. Pick which question is going to be the best for you, or the answer. Move on to the next one. I'd star it, leave a little thing on the side there so you can always go back to it. If you have time then you can go there. But what you don't want is that you run out of time because you spent like 10 minutes on one question. Remember, it doesn't matter about the wrong questions. We need to focus on what questions we can get right. Also, remember too, definitely do not leave any blank. You've got to be conscious of your time. So if you're running out of time, fill things in. So you make sure it's all aligned, filled out there. Because hopefully then you get some right. That could maybe bump you up to that next score kind of bracket there. So hopefully, again, kind of have it in the back of your mind. Make sure you're bringing your number 2 pencils, those pens for the FRQ, a watch that doesn't make sound. Don't bring any smart watches. You're not going to be able to use them. Your phones, you're not going to be able to use. And remember, you can do this, and you've got this. So we're going to go into our Unit 9 here. So remember, we're always connecting back to the CED. It's right here. We're looking at Unit 9 of AP Psychology, which is going to be a blast. When we're talking here, we'll get our Kahoot code up so we can just get right on into our fun. So here we go. Sign on in. Some people saying they also have AP Macroeconomics. Yeah, this week and next week, for all of you students who are taking multiple AP tests, I feel for you. That is a lot. That's a lot to do. So right now, though, we're going to be focusing on our Unit 9 of AP Psychology. So let me know where people are from. We'll put some of those on the screen. What do we got? Some people asking about snacks and stuff. I mean, when you're taking this test, you want to be just focused on this test. You're not going to want to bring food and stuff in there. Texas, Minnesota, Arkansas, New York, NYC, Tennessee, Minnesota, New York, Atlanta, Canada, Louisiana, Tallahassee, Hawaii, Georgia, California, Miami, they're going so fast, California, Houston, Texas, Indiana, Florida, Chicago, Miami. My thing is glitching. There's so many things coming in all at once. Virginia, Jacksonville. There we go. Buffalo. Sweet. Cool. All right, we got a bunch of people in here. We are going to get started. If this is one of your first time joining us, what we're going to do, we're going to go through these Kahoot questions. I'll explain the different questions and answers, and we'll kind of review together. So you're going to do great tomorrow. You've got this. So if you're still waiting to get in, don't worry. I'm going to start it so we can make sure we value your time. I'll put the Kahoot code, though, on the bottom so you can sign on in there. All right, so 455-2502. Cool. All right, Kahoot code's on the bottom. Let's get going. Question 1, people. You've got this. Hey, I notice you, and I noticed that you are going to do great tomorrow. You're going to crush that exam. So you got this. All right. If someone cuts you off while driving, your first thought might be, what a jerk. instead of considering the possibility that the driver is rushing someone to the hospital. So you get cut off right away. You immediately are like, this is ridiculous. This guy's terrible, or this girl's terrible, or whoever, and you're done. What do we got here? All right, so that's our scenario. Here's our question. Remember, this is kind of my way of trying to move around Kahoot's limitations of how much I can actually type here. So what do we got? What do we got here? Just world hypothesis, situational attribution, false consensus effect, or fundamental attribution error. It's always a good day when you start off right here making these. We'll have a pep talk. Yes, we'll have a pep talk at the end of this. We'll do a pep talk. I see some people have. Yeah, fundamental attribution error. Awesome. Remember, too, this could also connect into that dispositional attribution error. So that could also be there. That would be another answer that we could connect to. So this, again, is this tendency of an individual to overestimate the degree in which an individual's behavior is determined then by his or her, so his or her personality, characteristics, or attitudes or beliefs. So we're minimizing things there in that situation. Distribution. So some people about dispositional attribution, that would be when another person's going to blame another person's internal characteristics. So I'm not going to look at other factors. I'm just going to blame for that individual. The false consensus effect. So when we're looking at this would be that tendency to assume that one's own opinions, beliefs, or attitudes are actually more widely accepted. So I'm just assuming that, like, oh, I believe this, everyone must believe this, or a bunch of people must believe this. So that would be that false consensus effect. Hopefully that helps there. Any others? The other ones make sense. Remember, too, just world hypothesis. We assume the world's fair. And so if something bad happens to someone, clearly they were a bad person. Wouldn't have happened to them if they were good. And that situational attribution there, we are looking then at the essentially individual's actions or behaviors, the outcome there. It's actually because of external circumstances. So it's not the internal that's causing it, it's these external. All right, next question. Here we go. Some people, again, so while this one's up, we got a question here. Some people asking about that dispositional attribution error. That, remember, is that tendency to overestimate how much an individual's behavior is determined by their characteristics, attitudes, or beliefs. So we're minimizing that influence of, like, the situation, the surrounding things on an individual. I know. I get excited. I see a question. I'm trying to answer it. I know. I gave this one away a little bit, but we still have people that got it wrong. So again, the situational attribution here, this false consensus effect, the false consensus effect, we're assuming other people must think like this. Like, I assume that all good Star Wars fans don't like The Last Jedi because it's a terrible movie. However, I know that people like it. It's an opinion. So that'd be a false consensus effect if I just assume that everyone doesn't like it because I don't like it. All right, let's go on to our next one here. Coming up, we got another situation here. You wanted to be a vegetarian because eating animals is wrong. Ooh, I switched vegetarian to vegan. My apologies there. It was difficult to be a vegetarian, not vegan. So you ate meat, but you make yourself feel better. You say, I'm only going to eat meat. I'm only going to eat meat here from family farms because at least the cows aren't suffering that much. So we want to be a vegetarian, but that's really hard. So we're going to start eating meat, and we're going to change it then. We're going to be like, hey, I instead will just eat meat from free range or these family farms here. What do we got? Thoughts? 9 seconds left. Cool. Majority of people did get it. Yes, it's this cognitive dissonance. Excellent. So majority of people did get it. The confirmation bias, that one seems to be the one that was the next, I guess, best answer that people had. It wasn't right, but that was the one that people put the most. So again, that's going to be when people are going to try and align information. They seek information that kind of goes with their point of view. So like a lot of people, when it comes to politics or the news, generally are going to gravitate towards sources that align more with their ideology. And then that reinforces their thinking. Where if, like, let's say you're on a certain side of the political spectrum, you're then someone else recommends a news story from a channel or a publication that doesn't necessarily have your beliefs, you're more likely to dismiss it. You're going to take the stuff that challenges you. You're like, I don't want that. Confirmation bias again. We are trying to focus on what aligns and supports our point of view there. So it'd be that confirmation thing. For the people with FRQ predictions, or they're asking for FRQ predictions, maybe one year I'll do it. I don't really do FRQ predictions just because then that's what you're just going to focus on. And then you're not going to focus on everything else. And like, I don't know necessarily what College Board has. It's fun to guess. It's fun to like think about it. It's weird too, because this is like the last year of this format of the AP test. Next year it's all different and it's going to be online. So maybe that throws a little bit more of a curveball into this year. Hopefully they're going to be really nice to you guys since like, it's the last year of this one. Let's not go too crazy. But I don't normally give FRQ predictions. Maybe I should. If I don't know for sure, I don't want to give you like a false hope and then you just focus that and then you miss out on information there. So, all right, let's go on to our next one. You really want your parents to buy you a pair of shoes. That costs $50, but you decide to use a psychological technique and you first ask for a pair that costs $200. You're smart. You're using your information you're learning in this class and applying it to the real world because you want those shoes. So you got to be a little sneaky. All right, let's see what is going on. What is happening here? What do we have? What do we got? You've done this? Okay, was it with shoes? Also, great profile picture. Quality. That's an old school reference there. Yes, it is the door in the face technique. So that would definitely be it for sure there. So the other one was the foot and door. So let's just quick talk about these. Again, like we talked about the other day, when we're looking at AP just in general tests, doesn't matter if it's psychology or Euro or macro or whatever test you got going on. A lot of times College Board will put similar concepts that students mix up kind of together because they're not trying to trick you, but they're trying to see, do you truly understand it? So like the foot and door, or the door and face, you probably, if you have a question on here, they might see these two together because they're trying to see, do you know the difference between these two terms? So remember that door and face. Here, what we're trying to do, we are going to then present something that we know they're not going to go for. Like, so me saying, hey, can you buy me these $200 shoes? Like, I know that's not my goal, but I'm going to start with that because then when I say the 50, it's like, oh, 50. Well, that's a good deal. If I'm comparing 50 to 200, yeah, okay. I said no to the $200 shoes, but all right, the 50, that's reasonable. The foot and door, on the other hand, here's where we're going to start off with something really small and we get them to agree with that. And then we try to eventually move our way up to the next thing. So we start off smaller. They agree to that. They're like, well, we're already doing this. We might as well get that next one. I always like to think of this one as like, if you go to Starbucks or Caribou, I guess if you're not in the Midwest, you probably don't have Caribou, but all the coffee places, if there's a lot of Starbucks fans out there, by all means, no offense, but it's overpriced. But what you see is how they price all their drinks. It starts off where you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm buying like the small or whatever. Oh, but for 50 cents more, I could get it. Well, I'm already buying it. I might as well get like the medium. It's just 50 cents more. Okay, well, I might as well go up to the large because now it's just 75 cents. And all of a sudden you're spending like $2, $3 more. And so we can see that you start off at that smaller amount. Then you start to see, well, if I'm already here, next step isn't that bad. So foot in the door, we're starting at a smaller amount. Door in the face, you hit them with something that's like, whoa, this is crazy. And then we walk it back to what we actually want. Yes. All right. There's a couple. I see people asking about some of the other ones. I will do the likelihood elaboration model, but the other ones I'm not going to go into yet because I know for sure I do have questions on those. So remember that likelihood, the elaboration likelihood model. This is that persuasion theory that's going to talk about our attitudes. And what it's looking at is saying our attitudes towards something can actually kind of, what's a really easy way to just quick put this, that they can not scale, but depending on what we're looking at here, we're looking at an individual and how they're being persuaded and how that changes their perception of a concept. So the model's trying to see how much of a person's argument is actually based on logic versus the emotions. And this is going to get into that central route to persuasion. It's going to get into also the peripheral route to persuasion. So we're trying to kind of see here what is going on. Is an individual scrutinizing something? They're using logic and facts. They're trying to break it down, or is it more of an emotional thing of what they're talking about? So we're going to the next question. We're going to see what we got. We're going to rock it. Here we go. Next question coming up. When deciding which skincare line you want to purchase, you decide to buy Kylie Jenner's skincare kit because you like her, instead of looking into the details of the ingredients and comparing them to other options. What type of persuasion is this? What do we got? What type of persuasion? What do we got here? All right. See some people in the chat saying some possible answers that could be right. Dun, dun. All right. Majority of people got this. Yes. So remember, whenever we're talking about that peripheral, it's kind of that low effort. While the central route there, we're looking at information very carefully. So remember, don't mix those two up. Again, that AP test, they're going to have terms that are going to be similar. The peripheral and the central route easily get mixed up. So generally, you might see them get paired together. Not always, but you might. So you want to be on the lookout for these. This is also why when you're taking multiple choice tests, underline. If you see a term, underline that in the question. And then when you're looking for the answers, make sure it connects back to those concepts you underline. A lot of times too, you might see multiple concepts mentioned. So make sure you're underlining as you're going. You need to slow your brain down during this test. You're going to be stressed. And when we're stressed, we're more likely to skim. We're more likely to miss words. Your brain's going to kind of fill it in as you're reading. And so we need to slow down. Yes, you're timed, but by slowing down, we'll make less mistakes and we can reduce some of our stress levels there. All right. Some people asking real quick. Yeah, central, you're going to be focusing a lot more on like the facts. We're looking at information carefully. We're trying to really understand what's going on. That peripheral, it's very low effort. We're not really focusing on any of the logic there. So like in that case, it's more of an emotional argument. It's like, I like that individual, so I'm just going to purchase it. I'm not actually looking at like, well, is there cheaper options, or how good is this skincare routine? Is it actually going to help me? So that would be kind of the difference. Central route is more focused on that logic. We're going to look at things carefully. The peripheral is going to be that more low effort. Yes. All right, here we go. Another scenario. Which obedience study showed that most people will be obedient to an authority figure, even when they feel cognitive dissonance, especially if the authority figure was close by? All righty, here we go. Next question coming up. What do we got? Stanley Milgram, Philip Zimbardo, Solomon Asch, or Sigmund Freud? What do we got? How to learn 5 units in a day. If you're right now trying to learn all of the different units, I would again just focus at this point. Focus on, look at that CED. Look at which units have the highest percentage. Which one of those is your weakest? Focus on that. Don't try to like cram everything, and try to like skim through a little bit and look to then see exactly what are the big concepts. Like, is there certain studies or models, or is there certain vocab terms? So try to focus on those like larger concepts there. You're going to do great. You're going to do great. Okay. Yeah. Stanley Milgram definitely would be the one here. Cool. We're going to go on to the next one. So yeah, Zimbardo had the prison experiment. Milgram's had the shock. Solomon Asch, remember, is the line experiment. And Sigmund Freud, I just kind of, I just put him in there. All right, here we go. Changing the leaderboard. Okay, excited lemur on the top, holding strong. Yes. So some people asking about the percentages. I'll do that right at the end. So I will. I'll get those up for you in just a little bit. So here we go. People accepting a not so good idea in order to maintain harmony and coherence in a group. What do we got? What do we got here? Yes, groupthink. Excellent, excellent job. Some people are saying here I'm gonna try to pin it if I can. Oh my goodness, I lost my mouse. It's gone. So halo effect. This is going to be that idea of when you meet someone, if you have a really good, positive first impression, generally then you're more likely to listen to what they have to say. You're more likely to see the information they have in a positive way. So if you have a bad first impression, then you're more likely to do the opposite, where you're like, I didn't really like them right away. They're giving off some weird vibes. Then you're going to be more distrusting. But that first impressions are really important. Sometimes we like to think like, oh, no, we don't. We treat everyone the exact same, but that first impression does influence how we are perceiving information coming from an individual and how we're perceiving what's happening there. So hopefully that helps there. Some people asking about social cognition there. That one is going to be the spreading. So what we start to see is behaviors and attitudes that kind of spread through social circles or crowds. That would be, yes. So this is the one where we're spreading through like the behaviors, attitudes. We have people together there, and it's just kind of, it's diffusing. It's spreading through there. Where's another one? There's a couple others real quick. So yes. So this ash line experiment, this is from the last one. Sorry, maybe I should have done more of it. So what Solomon Asch looked at, he was looking at this kind of conformity. So he wanted to understand the influence by different groups and the different like normative influences. So we'll talk about that one a little bit later on. But what this experiment did is it had people sit at a table and they answered different questions they saw. Everyone in the experiment was kind of in on it, except for a volunteer. What started to happen is eventually they had the people who were kind of in there, they're part of the experiment. They are viewing this line and they had to ask to be able to identify kind of like the shapes, the orders of the lines. And eventually people, the Confederates, remember, are people who are in on that experiment, started to give incorrect answers. So they're giving wrong answers. And eventually then what started to happen is those volunteers that were part of it would also give wrong answers. They wanted to conform. You can kind of think of it like social norms. When we have social norms, like holding the door open for someone, that's a really simple one. But social norms, when we violate it, we feel wrong. And when we have then a desire to conform back, social norms kind of keep us a little bit in line there. So maybe you saw like there's a bunch of examples that impractical jokers break social norms all the time. What Solomon Asch just noticed in there with his line experiment is that eventually when we have these Confederates, people in on there who all of them were putting a wrong answer, even when it's clear wrong answer is happening, the volunteer who wasn't in on it felt like they were wrong and then conformed to the rest of the group. So hopefully that kind of helps with that one. All right, let's go back to our Kahoot. Let's go to our next question there. Oh, we got to change the leaderboard. There we go. All right, coming up, next question. Coming down. Why would a sports team perform better when they're in their hometown with a packed stadium? What do we got? What do we got? Yeah, social facilitation. Exactly. Yes. Perfect. Yes. Awesome job. Some people asking about social loafing. So remember, that's going to be a reduction in an individual's effort. So generally, it happens all the time with school, all the time. You have a group project and someone's like, sweet, these people are going to do the work. I can just kind of coast along and I'll get a good grade. Or I don't have to fill out the study guide because I know my friend's going to fill out the study guide. I'll ask them and then they'll give it to me. So social loafing, what we see here, this is this reduction in effort. Individuals who are part of this group now are actually going to start to do less compared to if they were alone. So if you had to work alone, you're actually going to do more. You can think about like your couch surfing, sloafing there. All right, social facilitation. This would be an example here. Again, remember, this is where we see improvement in individuals' performances because others are present. And the bystander effect, that one's going to be a phenomenon where people are actually going to fail to help people. They're going to fail to actually engage and interact to try and prevent something because they see other people are present. So like if there's a car crash, sweet. Let's put this one back up. Go on to our next question here. Oh, yeah. The last one, group polarization. Remember, this is that tendency. And I actually saw some people already put it down. It crashed. I think it crashed. Is this stream up? I'm seeing a bunch of people saying it crashed. It's back now. We're good. We're good. Crisis averted. Okay. Can't crash on the last one. It's been like 9-10 days of straight live streams every night. Got to make through at least the last one. Last year I had it crash a bunch, so I actually had to upgrade my computer. It couldn't handle the streams anymore. Okay, real quick, because I was trying to explain group polarization before it crashed, because I did miss that one. Remember, this is where we start to see members of a group as we have more and more individuals getting together, and they start like talking and talking. Extreme ideologies, and we start to see actually get heightened. So like if people are really upset about something and they're all getting together and they're all mad about it, they all start venting, they all start talking, and they get more and more and more upset. So essentially we just see this extremism kind of start to happen. And it can happen for a variety of different things. So this is why too, like you get into certain like work cultures, like if everyone is complaining all the time and really unhappy, that starts to have this impact of the culture becomes more and more toxic. People start to become more and more polarized. So hopefully that helps there. All right, next question. That was group polarization I was talking about. Group polarization. All right. Here at a team building activity with people from other departments of your job, you choose a partner who is wearing a Batman shirt. Which is your favorite movie? And you think, well, they must be more trustworthy. Why? What do we got? Why? All righty. Question coming up now. Fun fact. Batman, definitely top tier superhero. Definitely S tier. This is also an S tier movie. 100%. 100%. Some people asking about like all the names right now. I mean, honestly, at this point, I wouldn't worry about like memorizing all like of the different names. What I do is kind of, if you wanted to kind of go through that CD a bit, look to see, well, I'll show that CD at the end of this again. I'll show you the percentages of which units to focus on. We're taking a practice test. Also, too, the big thing is going to get some sleep. You guys have put in a ton of time, and it's really easy to get stressed out right now and panic, but you're going to do great. And if you get a question you're not sure of, that's okay. You can break it down. All right. A bunch of people did get this one correct. I have a couple people asking about reciprocity. Wow, I really butchered that pronunciation. The norms there. That's going to be this social standard where if you help someone, then they're going to be like, well, I feel obligated now to do the same for you. So I help you move. Well, now I feel like they're going to help me move, and they'll feel like that. Or if you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, like Penny got Sheldon a gift for Christmas or his birthday, one of the two. And he was like, no, don't do that. Now we have this like contract. I feel like now I have to get you a gift in return, and this cycle then never ends. So that would be the norm there as far as the people who are asking that. All right. Let's go on. De-individuation. So some people are asking about that one. I just looked over at the chat. This is, again, when people are going to be in a crowd and you get essentially so swept up. The crowd, you're maybe like a basketball game. Everyone's cheering, or a football game. They're all excited. And all of a sudden you start to realize like you're cheering and screaming and jumping up and down. And normally you wouldn't do that. And you didn't even realize that you were kind of doing that you were screaming so loud. You're starting to lose that self-awareness. You're becoming less restrained. So that would be de-individuation. You can think about like as an individual, you're kind of you're going down, you're joining kind of that group. You're becoming part of that group there. So that would be our one there. All right. Going on here. The reason why at first, when you heard a song on the radio, you were not too interested in it. But after hearing it a bunch of times, hey, you realize it's actually pretty good. What do we got? What do we got? Thoughts. Also, props to all of the people in the chat. So I was looking back and we can see other people are also asking questions. We got people answering questions. That is the coolest thing about these live streams in this community, is seeing people just help each other out. Again, too, when we're done with this live stream, unfortunately, I actually have a meeting a little bit later tonight, so I won't be able to be on that long. But the Discord server, 22,000 people are on it. And we have people just studying and reviewing. So it's a really cool community and it's awesome. So if you haven't joined yet, check it out. I'll show it to you at the end. All right, perfect. Majority of people got this. So we're going to go on to the next one because pretty much everyone did. It is that mere exposure effect. So the more you are exposed to something, the more and more eventually you start to prefer it. So that's why a lot of times right away you don't like some, but over time you start to come around to it. That's why a lot of times advertisements, they're going to have it where you see it a ton because they realize at first you'd be like, that's a dumb ad. Eventually, though, you start to recognize the name. Eventually, maybe you start to like it. And we're coming up in the United States to a wonderful election. I'm sure it'll be a blast, and I'm sure you're going to see a ton of political ads all over the place. And they're going to hope that that mere exposure effect works. All righty. If you're looking at like the scapegoat, some people are asking about that. Remember scapegoat here, the scapegoat theory. Essentially, we're just blaming someone else. We're blaming a different group. We have a negative situation and we are going to put them as the reason. Even though they're not actually the reason, we're going to blame them. Cool. So for attraction, this is right at the end of the CED. Yes, it'd be the consummate here. So remember, compassionate. This is going to be that more intense than just a standard friendship. Often it lacks intimacy. Passionate will be physical and intense, but really no strong commitment. The ruminant, I just made that one up, and consummate there has passion, intimacy, and commitment. So the stronger the attraction compared to the other two there. So that is all at the end of our CED. So if we look here, that is going to be in the 9.7. If you want to connect back to the CED, it comes from 9.7 there. All right, here we go. Why does the bystander effect occur? Mentioned this one earlier in the stream. What do we got? What do we got? Yes, diffusion of responsibility. That is correct. Again, when we're in this group, generally people diffuse that responsibility throughout it. I don't need to do anything. Someone else clearly did something. So then I can just kind of go with it. Yeah, cool. We're going to go on to the next one. We talked about de-individuation, group polarization. We talked about that as well. Tragedy of the commons. It's a social dilemma. Not necessarily a big thing for psych. But all this is again, people, well, it could, I guess. Here we have in the short term, people aren't going to act in what's in their best interest for the long. So generally, we're going to see like people will like take advantage of different things. They'll benefit them right away, but in the long run, it's going to hurt them. So they're not thinking long term. All right, Skylar hates when the teacher assigns group projects. She always ends up doing all of the work, even though it's a group project. What do we got? Yeah, tragedy of commons isn't really as big here. Apes, you heard about apes? Nice. Apes is legit. What do we got? This hits close to home. The group work stuff. Sorry. All right. It is social loafing. We talked about this earlier. Again, we're a part of a group, and I'm like, hey, I don't have to do anything because my group will do it. Remember that halo effect? I saw some people again asking about that halo effect. You have a good first impression of someone, and now you're more likely to take what they say seriously. You're more likely to want to help them out. You're more likely to be like, hey, you probably are right. Group polarization, again, is going to be this process of our beliefs. They essentially continue to strengthen the more we talk to others. So that is occurring there. And confirmation bias, we are going to seek things that then align to our perspective. So if I feel a certain way about a topic, I'm going to surround myself with other individuals who also feel that way. So, and then information that challenges it, I'm not going to focus on. All righty, here you go. When everyone has to work together to achieve a common goal that is more important than their individual goals together. What would this be? All working together. What do we got? Again, some people are asking here. Remember, Kahoot limits how much I can type. So like this is great for like some quick vocab. What I did is I went through the CD and I just tried to take things from it. So The AP test definitely will probably have some questions that have a little bit more depth to them because they're not limited on how much they can type. That's also why, too, I'm trying to provide different little scenarios to try and connect. So that's one way to try and make it closer there. Yeah, majority of people did get it. Super ordinate. So remember, here we have 2 or more groups that are working together and they're trying to achieve that common goal. Scapegoat, we talked about. Ethnocentrism, we haven't talked about. Remember, ethnocentrism is this practice of judging another culture by the standard of one's own culture. So I'm not really trying to see it from their perspective. Like they're doing something, I'm like going to judge them. Maybe it could lead to stereotypes, prejudice that could occur. I'm not trying to understand why they're doing something. All right. Tragedy of Commons more is apes. I shouldn't have even really put in. All it is again, we're going to do something in the short run that benefits us, but in the long run, then there's actually going to be some consequences to it. All right. Cool. Majority of people got this one. A little bit more of a dispute here on some of these. So remember, when we're looking at this for the red, when a person seeks to cause physical or psychological harm, that would be hostile aggression. So not instrumental aggression. For the other one, where people's unconscious mind, aggressive or aggression and aggressive tendencies come from thoughts and feelings. That's going to be more of a psychodynamic approach to it. And then when aggression comes from a person's frustrations, frustration, aggression hypothesis. So this is, again, connecting kind of into 9.6 of the CD, which is aggression and also altruism. That would be for those. So instrumental, again, aggression here. It's going to be when that person's using aggression to get something they want. Hostile, you're actually going to like physically be aggressive and do different things there. So here we have, if a person from France looks down on American culture and thinks that Americans just eat junk and fast food, no wonder they're overweight. What do we got going on? French people. All righty. Remember, altruism is going to be, some people are asking about it. Altruism is going to be when someone is going to put the betterment of society above themselves or the betterment of another individual. So an altruistic act, you're doing something for someone else. You're not thinking about yourself. You're trying to help people out and do things there. And yeah, this would be ethnocentrism. So this judging there of what we're looking at and viewing here. Implicit prejudice. This would be negative feelings that someone has, but they're not aware of it. It's implicit. So this person's not aware of that. So something to think about for that one. These are just keen on how we're viewing people, how we're looking at kind of stereotypes, prejudice, different ways of viewing different cultures with the social psych. All right, for our next one here, let's go. Which of these variables do not contribute to attraction? Ethnocentrism, again, we're judging another culture by the standards of one own. So like in there, like France, they only eat or they eat very particular food. They look at America, not trying to understand our culture there. They're just judging it from that perspective there. All right. And it'd be conflict management. Yes. So here we're affecting that relationship in the long run, but it's not in the variable attraction. So yeah. All right. Next one coming up, 28. Concern for the well-being of others, even if it costs the individual, would be considered what? What do we got here? What do we got? Do. And 3 seconds left. Yeah, altruism. In my class, we had a big debate a little bit on this. Because if we're looking at it from like, I also teach like AP microeconomics, and I've taught an introduction to philosophy class, but we looked at this idea of like, can people ever truly do something that doesn't benefit them? And we had a debate on it. And I took kind of the devil's advocate approach. I argued that you will never do anything that doesn't benefit you. That no matter what, you'll always do something that benefits you. And if it doesn't, if there's zero benefit, then you wouldn't do it. And so we had a good debate on this of discussion on like how people and their actions, what they decide to do, what they don't decide, and connecting into altruism. Like, do we have it here where a lot of people do this? Is this a thing or not? So interesting to always discuss and kind of try and think, especially here with like morality, because there's a lot of conversations that you can have. All righty. Let's go on to our next question here. At a basketball game, everyone is getting upset at the referee calls. And as grumblings and complaints start to mutter through the crowd, some people may even start to yell at the referees. Now, traditionally, you're very respectful, of course, during these games. But in this situation, you find yourself joining in with the group and yelling at the referees. Let the people play, ref. Let them play. What do we got? What's going on here? What's most likely happening? Let them play. Let the kids play. People are furious. Also, shout out Minnesota Timberwolves. Represent. Doing very well. Older picture, but still, take it. All right. Yes, it is de-individuation. So group polarization, that one, real quick, because that one was, a lot of people put that one. This is, again, when people's opinions, thoughts, or even actions, I suppose, become more extreme. You could maybe make a case for that, but really what starts to happen, like, and that's why in the prompt I tried to say, normally you're not like this, and then all of a sudden you find yourself joining in. So de-individuation is when we have this loss of self-awareness and restraint, and eventually then we see unusual behavior. So this could be because of like the group we're in, and all of a sudden we're starting to become more of part of it. So that would be kind of why I have this as the best answer for it. Where group polarization, again, it's more of like your opinions, thoughts. They start to become more extreme. Where here, it's just like this temporary moment. Once all of a sudden the game's over, you're back. Or like once maybe all of a sudden it's timeout, everyone's calming down, and then you're not there. All right, social trap. So social trap, some people asking about that. That is going to be situations where relationships between individuals or groups, what's going to be happening here is people are acting in a way where they're self-interested instead of actually focusing on what's better for the larger community or that larger group. And so once we start to see things happen, then it becomes very difficult to change. So kind of short-term gain, long-term pain here. So we're not focusing on what's best for everyone in that long run. We're focusing more in the short run. So we're, again, putting some of these small things first that we're like, hey, we're benefiting right now, even though it's not what's best for everyone else. So some people will connect this into like changes happening with our environment. Right now, we're like, we don't want to change different things because it could hurt the economy in the short run, even though maybe that's costing things in the future. Or with like econ, if we're looking at like government spending and consumer spending and debt. Right now, I want to spend that credit card more. The government wants to spend more because in the short run, it's going to be better for us. But in the long run, there could be consequences. And we're not really focusing on it. So it's kind of this social trap here. All right. Here we go. When's the next live? This is it. This is my last live of the year. The last probably video of the year too. After all this, I need to just sleep a little bit. And actually, what happens now is I'm going to be doing just a ton of stuff with Psych because Ultimate Review Packet, pretty much hitting the reset button on that. All the videos hitting the reset button. New stuff for Psych next year. So got to figure out how to get all that going. So it'll be back to the grind. Yes, majority of people got it. Let's talk about it. We do have some splits here. So the reason why it's our yellow one here, we're seeing individuals and they're actually going to change their behavior, their comments, or personality to match that social setting. So here we can see Jack is shy in class. He hardly talks and always listens carefully. But when he's with his friends, he's louder and hyper. So based on our situation, the situation that's changing, we can see Jack here is changing to fit that. Social facilitation, on the other hand, this would be when a group of people are together, they start to perform better. So for example, like a lot of times athletes, when they're in there, we had an example actually earlier in the Kahoot, when you're at home and you're in front of a bunch of fans and they're all hyping you up, as a group, you are actually starting to perform better. You could also connect into some other concepts there. But when you're playing as a team, you are starting to become better because of the team, not necessarily your individual skills. So that'd be the difference there. Remember, in-group bias, this is going to be when a person's more likely to favor people who are in their in-group and judge others who are not part of that group. So in-group would be people like we identify more with, that we can see a connection with there. So if you're in the out-group, then generally we'll see out-group bias. We're more likely to be more critical there. Be like, well, why aren't they trying more? Why aren't they doing more things? It's partially why, like, if your friends get a poor score on a test in your class, they're in your in-group, you're going to have some in-group bias there. Well, you might start to be like, wow, the teacher really wasn't fair. They shouldn't have done that to you. It was a bad test. But if that kid in your class you don't really like, they don't do well, they're part of the out group, there's some bias there. You might just be like, well, maybe you should have studied more instead of always talking or not doing your work. Like, that's on you. So again, we can see how our perceptions can change things there. All right, let's look at our leaderboard. What do we got? What do we got? Yes. Cool. And the Bison in first place. Third place is that. The Prairie Crab in second. We have our runners up. So awesome job. Couple things when we're looking at tomorrow. Where is our CD? So real quick, when we're talking, so this part of the unit, if you're like, oh, what should I focus on tonight? This unit is, again, 8 to 10% of the exam. Here, when we're looking at the larger units, I have a bigger portion of our test. Clinical psychology, unit 8, 12 to 16. Motivation, 11 to 15. These are 2 units that are bigger. Developmental psychology is only 7 to 9. Cognitive, 13 to 17, another bigger unit. 5, 7, and 8 are the bigger units for here. Learning is 7 to 9, 6 to 8. 1 is 10 to 14. Honestly, unit 1 is almost more of like a recap, especially this introduction to psychology. This is more of a recap of kind of the whole course. And then again, unit 2 is 8 to 10%. So remember, to this document, it's in the description here. If you're interested, you could even kind of go through, see, do you know some of these words? There's a lot, obviously, in here. So these, for example, this is what College Board's testing us on. So if this would help you, you could. It's a huge document. At the bottom, though, the nice thing, what you can do if you're looking for some more practice, where is it? So here's our exam information again, that we have our breakdown for tomorrow. So remember, we have 2 FRQs. It's going to be 14 points. Here again's all the percentages there. You can also see too for our skills. So data analysis, scientific investigation, concepts there of what you need to understand. Psych has a lot of just understanding concepts. So you want to make sure tonight, if there's certain vocab words that you're worried about, things of that, definitely check that out, because that's a significant part of this test. And again, spend some time with these task verbs. These task verbs are going to be how your FRQs are going to be asked. And a lot of times these task verbs, if you get it defined, all you're doing is providing the specific meaning, move on to the next one. So task verbs are important to understand because it allows you to see exactly how you should be answering the question. So spend some time, make sure you're ready for these. Remember, explain is when you're going to provide the most information, and you want to try to have these connections between a relationship, process, or pattern. There's also practice tests here too, if you want. So check that out if you're interested. Again, that's also, if it's easier, in the ultimate review packet, I broke it down by unit. Or if you need help with any of the units, here's a Unit 9 summary video. It's 30 minutes. But it goes over all of the stuff. Same thing with all the other units. So, all right, here we go. Can you please make a unit? All the Kahoots are in that ultimate review packet thing. Okay. Yes. All right. Speech. Okay. So here we go. This is the last kind of pep talk. So one thing to think about, especially for all of you who have been to all the lives, and even if this is your first time of live, no worries. I get it. You got a lot going on. A lot of you are taking multiple APs. This is just one test. If you think about your entire life and all the different things, it's a blip. Now, it's an important blip, and I realize right now you're stressed and you're worried, but this stress is going to be some eustress here. It's going to be positive. It's going to help you. You've been putting in so much work all year. All year, you've been working with your teachers. Maybe you've been watching some of my videos. You've been talking with students online in your classroom. You've been studying. There's tears, there's laughs, there's all the wonderful things that happen with AP. You are taking a harder class. You could have been easy. For a lot of people, this is an elective too. So just taking psych in general, You're taking a risk. You're taking more classes that not everyone does. And so you should be proud of that. Regardless of what happens at the end of this, you should be proud of the work you have done. This test score doesn't define you. Now, you're going to do great. Remember, that self-fulfilling prophecy. We can use that to help us out. Let's manifest a 5. Let's manifest that good score. Focus tonight on what you can control. Focus tonight on the points you will get right. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. In my one video, I talked about it. Voltaire said, perfection is the enemy of good. When we focus on perfection, we're bound to fail and get frustrated. You're going to see a question on that test that you have no idea about. And that's completely okay. You still can get a 5, even if you miss them. So don't get bogged down tomorrow. If you get one, take a shot on it. See if you can narrow it down, move on to the next one. And remember, you can do this. You've got this. You're phenomenal. These last 10 days have been a lot. If you've been on live streams, you've heard my voice. But doing these has been some of the most fun I've had all week. It's great interacting with you guys on chat. You are amazing students. And it's so cool to see all of you helping each other. And so remember that you can do this. You will do this. Now, tomorrow, go do this. You've got this. You're going to do great. There's nothing more to say. So we're going to end. As always, I'm Mr. Sinn. I'm not sure if I'll see you again online or not. A lot of you, I know, you're juniors, some sophomores, seniors. So this could be your last time. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for letting me be part of your academic journey in this part to help you out. I hope that you have found some value in these videos and had some fun along the way. So as always, thank you so much for everything. You guys are amazing. What I'm going to do now is sign off. I realize there's a ton in the chat. I realize a lot's going on, but you need to be able to get some sleep. So for the last time, signing off, I'm Mr. Sinn. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck tomorrow. And until next time, maybe I'll see you online. Maybe I won't. But good luck with all of your next adventures. Signing out for the very last time, Mr. Sinn is out.